This
Southworth,
conference will
Frederickson.
now be recorded.
Thank you, Cindy. So the meeting is called to order. It is the October 22nd, 2020 meeting of the EDA. This is our regular meeting time, and we are meeting in a virtual format on the GoToMeeting platform. The first item of business would be the approval of the agenda. Would anyone move the approval?
Dunn would move.
We have a motion by Dunn. Is there a second?
Southworth.
We have a motion by Dunn, a seconded by Southworth to approve the agenda as presented. I will just say all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. You have the minutes from the September 24, 2020 meeting, and I'll note that Corey Abels has joined us now on the phone. Would anyone move approval of the minutes from September 24 or note any corrections?
DeVos will move.
We have a motion by DeVos, second.
Abels
10
will second.
seconds.
We have a second by Corey Abels then. Motion by DeVos, second by Abels to approve the minutes of September 24 as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Eric Larson has joined us. Eric is I'm going to say he's relatively new general manager. He replaced an icon of Margot O'Brien. Loved Margot. But Eric is very capable in operations running without a hiccup. So welcome, Eric. When the food co-op relocated into the Nielsen Chevrolet building and repurposed it and did an award-winning renovation of the building, the city participated in that financing to the tune of a $350,000 loan. That was subordinate to the loans held by CCF Bank, or the former Wells Federal, and the North Country Development Fund. I can say all the payments have been made as due, when due, and in the amount due without a single exception. I will note that in 2018, when they undertook a renovation of the deli and some freshening up of the store, they did obtain some additional debt, and the city then subordinated our note to that new debt that was brought in by CCF Bank. I do have correspondence. Finally, I didn't have it in time for the packet, but I do have correspondence from well, let me back up. The note was scheduled to balloon here in December. It was set up on a 10-year balloon, and Eric Larson, I did include his letter. They requested that we provide a 5-year extension of the balloon and maintain the current terms of the loan. I do have correspondence from CCF Bank, and I'll read it to you. Dear Mr. Willie, as we discussed on the phone, CCF Bank is currently not in a position to extend additional credit exposure at this time to the St. Peter Food Co-op. We understand, based on our conversation, that the bond maturity is December 1, 2020, and the EDA is in the process of an extension for 5 years. Please advise if there's anything else we may need from the bank to finalize things on your extension. We would be glad to be of assistance. Thank you for your assistance in this matter. We appreciate it. Respectfully, Terry Keller, CCF Bank. You did see Eric's letter. They're asking to re-up the 5-year balloon, and they're asking to maintain the existing interest rate, which is 3. Prime right now is 3.25, but the last 2 actions that were taken were to approve the extension without a rate increase. And given the uncertainty of the COVID situation and long-term economic impact, the food co-op has made that request just so they have some certainties on their cash flows. I'd asked members Abels and Southworth in favor to undertake a financial review. I did get an email from Mike suggesting that he saw nothing that would lead to any concerns on his behalf, and he said that the finances look good, in his words, or in his letter. Mr. Southworth, Mr. Abel, any comment?
No other comments here. Looks good, Eric. Good keeping things going during COVID and stuff.
Thank you.
Bob?
I would agree with Mike that I looked at it, everything looks good, and
Very good. Well, they're a very important part of our business community. And so I did prepare a resolution that would provide for the 5-year balloon, or recommend that the council provide the 5-year balloon extension. And then I did take the liberty of putting it in there. I believe I put in that all the other terms would remain the same. So the interest would be, recommendation would be that the interest stay at 3%. I'd answer any questions, or first of all, I guess, Eric, do you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I just, I included it in my letter. I think that this program is important to the co-op and important to St. Peter also. So thank you.
No, thank you, Eric. Just one thing I like to point out, and I shared this with the Development Corp at their last meeting. This kind of spells out the economic impact of our revolving loan fund. When the food co-op was in the Jake's Pizza building, at that point, they had 42 employees. At this time, in 2019, they were at 71 employees. The hours worked at the former location for the year was 37,675. Last year, they had over 101,000 employee hours. So they went from 18.11 full-time equivalents to almost 49 full-time equivalent positions. And this is the one that blows me away. When they were in the previous location, their annual payroll was $405,386. They've increased that by over $1 million. Their payroll for 2019 was $1,406,933. So that is the trifecta. Also, they had an increase in their utility billings and certainly the property taxable value of the property. So that is one I call the trifecta. Job growth, utility use, and taxable value of property. So thank you, Eric, for the continued investment of your group. At this point, I'll open it up. If anyone has any questions for Eric or myself, and I'd ask that you raise your hand and we'll call on you. Julie.
I just have a question for clarity. So I'm looking at this, and it noted an appraisal in July of 2018 that had the property at 2.3 million, but it also noticed that there were additional renovations that year, but it didn't say when in the year. Was that after those renovations?
I think that was post renovation. Is that right, Eric?
We did the renovations in September and October of 2018.
So is there a current value appraisal of the property?
That I'd have to look up.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, looking at the numbers with the 3.35 was the original build, correct? And then there was an additional 580,000 put into the renovations.
Yep.
Are you concerned about that at all with the property?
Julie, I can speak about that a little bit. I was the lender at CCF when we did that. And there was no concern there. I highly doubt they did another appraisal after it was finished. There was enough equity there. There was enough equity for the current loans. And sometimes those build outs can be a little deceiving because, when you're putting in new equipment, that was all part of it, but that doesn't always appraise out in an appraisal. So as far as, and I don't want to speak on behalf of CCF since I'm no longer there, but when I was there were no concerns at the bank at all.
Okay. Yeah. When I'm just running numbers and not having done a brick and mortar myself, I look at, that's close to 4 million with an appraisal at 2.3. So that's why I was curious if that was before or after those renovations as well.
And if we were asked to put additional dollars into it, then we would ask for an update to the appraisal. But as we've looked at just loan extensions, it's been our practice. We haven't necessarily concerned because we're staying into the deal that we're already in. So other questions, raise your hand. I don't see anyone. Would anyone be inclined to move the resolution or move an amended resolution?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Abels to adopt the resolution that's been prepared. Is there a second?
Dunwoody, second.
We have a second. Now we have opportunity for discussion. So raise your hand if you have something to add for the discussion on the matter. Seeing nothing, I will call the roll call, and I will start with Member Dunn.
Aye.
Member DeVos.
Aye.
Member Abels.
Aye.
Member Southworth.
Aye.
Member Frederickson.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. Eric, this matter will be on the city council agenda for, looks like November 9th. And I'd ask you to attend virtually again. Usually there's not a role for you to play, but it'd be nice for you to take a couple pats on the back when I share those utility and payroll numbers with the council. So thanks,
I'll
Eric.
take those
And
right down.
we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item up for business is consideration of converting the COVID-19 microloans from a deferred loan to a grant. As I said, the city received $901,000 in CARES relief from the federal government, and that is to reimburse the city for CARES related expenses, unbudgeted expenses. So it's not funds that could be converted to buy a fire truck or put playground equipment in. And as the city had done their accounting of our actual expenses for the plexiglass, sanitizer, mask, extra janitorial, we did have some employees out on leave, and so we could pay the sick leave out of that COVID fund, but we come nowhere near expending the fund. So the council was asked that you consider converting the $487,000 in microloans to a grant, and then those funds would be replenished in the revolving loan fund by the CARES relief money that we received from the federal government. On behalf of the applicants, I believe that there would probably be universal approval of that. Their obligation is they would receive a IRS form for unforgiven debt. And so they would have a minor, I'd expect a tax obligation for the $10,000. But perhaps they have, other ways they can reduce their tax burden with their accountant. I'm going to open it up for discussion. Anyone have a comment? If you do, Corey, I don't have your camera on, so I can't see your hand, so just flip on your microphone if you have anything to add. Mr. DeVos.
So overall, I'm in favor of the concept of forgiving the loans. The only question I have, quite honestly, is I guess equity in those that decided to forego the loans in the first place because they didn't want to take on the debt, and now essentially they're going to miss out on getting handed essentially a $10,000. I mean, not gift because they have to pay tax on it, but essentially, is there an opportunity? How much flexibility would we have to potentially open up this program for another round of funding, I guess would be the question. Or if we reduce the amount that's forgiven but expanded it, open it up again for those who would wish to participate.
I've had, subsequent to closing the loan on August 31st, I've had two businesses that had made inquiry. Both of them I'd exhaustedly suggested that they accept the $10,000 0% deferred loan and just deposit it if it gave them some comfort. Neither one did, but now they're coming, and of course there's some chatter that perhaps they'd be converted to grants. As I discussed the matter with the city administrator, he would not suggest reopening it because we did make a pretty valiant effort to get people to take the loans. Yeah, I'd also have to see how that would fit in with the CARES money, if there's enough in there, Mr. DeVos. But the EDA certainly could recommend something to the city council.
And I'll say, just personal opinion is when someone offers you a $10,000 loan at 0%, not having to pay it back for a year, it was a really good deal at the time. So I do agree with that. The only next question I would have would be for businesses that may have closed, like say, for example, for the team who they're in repayment already. Are we looking at forgiving that as well, or would we look at keeping them, since essentially their business isn't, they got the money, but the business is no longer open? What were your thoughts on that?
As I talked to City Administrator Parafke about that, his thought was, yes, we would forgive for the team. And his suggestion was we'd reimburse them for the money that they have paid. So the council certainly can have a conversation about that as they would give the final authority to any plan that would go forward. But that had been Mr. Parafke's intent.
Okay.
We also have another one that's closed, is that the mobile car wash. They actually got locked out by their tenant after they paid their tenant a large share of the COVID-19 loan they got from the city. So yeah, he was actually locked out by the landlord. And I don't know what's happening in that matter. That's between the two private parties. But We have not even set him up on a repayment plan, anticipating that perhaps there would be a conversion.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Russ, I have a question, or maybe a couple of them, but what do we know, like to date, what the city has spent of this money?
Well, maybe one of the councilmen, I thought we were just getting up in about $100,000 for actual COVID-related expenses for sanitizers, plexiglass, et cetera. The council's also set up a small fund with Minnesota Valley Action Council to spend some CARES money to assist the low-income households with maintaining their utility payments. So that was converted. I see Finance Director Vogel has joined us. Can you comment on that, Sally?
Yes, through October, we have spent $77,000 of this money. So we still have, so if we add that in, with the current EDAs and convert those over, there'll be about 200 and some thousand that we're not projecting on spending. 250,000 basically that we have not spent yet, even with converting these loans. We're looking at different areas and different, there's the easing of some restrictions on public safety, so we should be able to use the full amount on public safety. So, but we think it's more important to forgive the 489,000 for the businesses.
Were these initially, they're set up on a year of no payment, right? Or
yeah, it had 1 year deferred.
2021.
Okay, I agree with the concept. I kind of support it. But my question is if we're doing it too early, not knowing what might come up in the next 3 or 4 months as a city, that we could possibly have to do something and not have the money available at that point then.
Yep, Sally can fill us in, Bob. There are deadlines, so go ahead, Sally.
Yeah, Bob, there are deadlines. So we have to have this spent by November 15th. So it's coming up pretty quick on this CARES money. So that's the other deadline that's coming up. So
I didn't that, so okay.
yeah,
And Sally,
they keep moving those.
Can you comment, Sally, on what happens if we don't spend the entire amount?
We're supposed to give it to the county and give them options to spend it, but the county's also going out now, you know, for business loans and the rest. And I don't think their people applied for those as much as what we thought they would either. So everybody's money, I think by the county's deadline is December 15th, I believe, that they have to have theirs spent too. So I think we'll be okay. If something would come up, like I said, there's about 50,000 in the next 2.5, 3 weeks that we could still do things with.
And if the county doesn't spend it all, it goes back to the federal government, right, Sally?
Correct.
We do not want that money going back to Washington. Other questions? Corey.
Hey, Russ, this is Corey. You know, what Brad had to say, I've heard that from some different business owners, the part about businesses who have closed, forgiving those for the businesses that are closed. I'm in favor of this program, but you know, some people are saying that it might be better to help out some other businesses that need the help that are still in town versus giving it to the businesses that are closed. With that said, it was only 2, but that is something that's been brought up to me.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? I should have mentioned earlier, the 2 businesses that did reach out about accessing the fund after it had closed, they both did receive COVID aid from the county. So they did get the grants from the county. So they did get some assistance from that fund. Other questions, comments? I don't see anyone. There is a resolution that's been prepared in the packet that would suggest that the city council provide for the conversion of the loans to a grant program. Would anyone be inclined to move the resolution? Oh, Ed, you got a question or is that a motion?
Yes, I got a question, Russ. The business I manage is involved in this. Should I just abstain?
Yeah, I believe that's probably appropriate.
I was going to mention that because I work for the county, I'm probably going to have to abstain as well.
Yep, so we'd still have a quorum. It would be a majority of those voting. So even if only 3 people can vote, that still constitutes a quorum. And we have 6 here now. I forgot Ed popped in. So would
Finally got the
anyone
right numbers.
not involved in the deal be willing to move the resolution?
I'll move.
We have a motion by Frederickson. Is there a second?
DeVos will second.
And we have a second by member DeVos. Further discussion? If so, just raise your hand. Seeing none, I will call the roll call, and we will start with member Johnson. Abstain.
I'll abstain.
Member DeVos.
Aye.
Member Abels.
Aye.
Member Southworth.
Aye.
Member Frederickson.
Aye.
And then member Dunn, you are going to abstain.
Yes, abstain.
Okay, motion carried. That will be considered by the council. I think it's going, maybe, I don't know if Todd's got it on for Monday night. I haven't written a memo, so I doubt it, but it'll be on then for the 12th of November, so we get that action taken care of. Thank you all. We'll move on to reports. And after a couple misfires, Ed Lee from the Chamber of Commerce has joined us, and he's going to talk about the $10,000 that we provided. So go ahead, Ed.
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. I was pretty windy the last time around. I spoke and answered a few questions. So I'll try and keep it very short today. Again, thanks on behalf of the business community for those dollars. $10,000 went a long way to promote St. Peter and get some shoppers here. Again, the message was shop safely in St. Peter. So we were targeting the consumers who were, willing to keep people, employees, stores as safe as possible. Always trying to balance that stop the spread with let's make the economy work. That's what we're all about. It's tough to measure the effect of advertising. It's kind of a cliche almost. It comes up over and over and over whenever there's advertising dollars being spent, but we can see on Facebook that we've reached more than 17,000 and a lot of comments, a lot of nice things said about St. Peter and the flowers and the strollability, the medians, everything. People from out of town love St. Peter. Almost overwhelmingly positive comments. We're in the midst of producing a commercial that will appear on KUIC. John Smithers and his drone were downtown a week ago yesterday to get some, they call it B-roll in the business, and a couple of businesses interacting with customers. And so that's what we're going to project and show in this commercial, which any day now, any minute now, this thing will come out. They expected to work on it for about a week, and it's been a week. So the timing is good because we're in the middle of October and the holiday shopping season is just around the corner. All the Christmas open houses are going to happen, holiday open houses. So we're really excited about partnering with KUIC, also newspapers, radio, even like Connect Magazine and River Valley Woman. We spread some of those dollars out there to reach as many as we could, as vast an audience, diverse an audience as we could. So we are excited about the program. We've talked to downtown business owners, and it's just really hard to measure what's going on. Market Fest has happened in the midst of this, so just guessing, a pretty educated guess, I think these dollars helped promote Market Fest as well. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to promote St. Peter. It's what we live and breathe in this office, and having that tool, having that $10,000 was just a fantastic punch. And we want to keep businesses open and paying taxes and enhancing the quality of life. So EDA, thanks so much.
Thank you, Ed. Does anyone have a question for Ed? Comments? So if you look at the last line on page 17, you can see that he blew right through the $10,000 and spent $10,000.75. So I think Ed's going to cover that out of his pocket. So thanks for your help, Ed. I know that Market Fest was very popular, and also the downtown business community is going to be looking to do maybe some Christmas efforts I'll talk about later as I do a report. No questions for Ed. We'll move down. And the Nicollet County Cares Assistance Program, the first round, they did about $660 some thousand in loans. I do have the list, and they've all been notified, and they'll try to get those closed relatively quickly. The majority of the businesses were St. Peter businesses, so we outnumbered North Mankato and of course, obviously the other smaller towns we'd expect to, but quite a bit of that funding is now flowing, will be flowing through downtown St. Peter. So thank you to the county for doing that. Given that they only spent about 2/3 of what they had set aside of the million, they opened it up to a second round of applicants. The first round was limited to businesses with 20 or fewer full-time equivalent positions. The second round is open to those with up to 50 full-time equivalent positions. So there will be some businesses that are eligible for the second phase, which were not for the first. It is a first come, first serve. So I encourage businesses to get out there. Ed worked with me. Ed provided notice of the availability to the chamber members, and I sent an email to the non-chamber members. So hopefully we've gotten people. But a business like Patrick's, I talked to John and Minnow, and they did not qualify for their first round. They had more than 20, but they have less than 50. So they were going to try to get in that day. So, but it's a $10,000 grant with no repayment expectations or obligations. Sole proprietors, even in-home daycares, were able to get up to $5,000. Churches and places of worship were eligible if they are organized as a nonprofit, which I'm told most of them are. So I don't have a list. Well, I guess there's the list on Google of the places of worship in St. Peter, but I reached out to the banks and said, if you've got account holders that are places of worship, that you could let them know that they may be eligible for this $10,000 grant. The county also came out with another program to assist families then with keeping up on daycare expenses and things of that nature. So that has been forwarded to the daycare providers that I have on a list, because if they have families that are behind, they may be encouraged to direct those families to get some help to get their daycare fees paid. So thank you to the county. Any questions on the county? I can fill you in what I know, which I pretty much did. Okay, I just got a few reports that I didn't have on there. I talked about Rebound Enterprises last time. I've invited the Development Corp to sit down with Rebound and go over that community real estate fund. We're going to set up a Zoom meeting, and it looks like it's going to be next Friday. So I will also send an invitation to the EDA members if you wanted to participate that as an individual and not as an assembled EDA. Also, I am going to send that to Kurt Kowaleski up at Gustavus. I call him the new Ken Westfall, but he's the vice president of finance and other duties up there, because Rebound has a relationship with Carleton College and St. Olaf College in their Northfield programs, and they've been able to do some mutually beneficial projects that benefit the college as well as the local business community. We do have 2 new retail operations that are going to be opening. The Heritage Preservation Commission will be reviewing their signage and other building details. Freebird is going to be a gift shop that'll be locating in the former Fair Emporium building. And then Reckless will be locating in the refinery building. Reckless is a women's boutique with, what do they say? Featuring items for a younger and more progressive demographic. So I always relate the story. When I started here 19 years ago, you couldn't buy women's clothing in town. There wasn't a single women's clothing shop. So, and we're glad that perhaps there's been a little bit of change in the business community and vitality and mixture. So those 2 will be reviewed by the HPC. Freebird, they've already got their door signage on, and they're in there feverishly working, trying to get the store remodeled to get open. The Baker Field House that Brad Baker is privately financing on North 3rd Street, they have been granted a conditional use permit. and the city council will consider the request to lessen the restrictions in the Gateway District. The Gateway Overlay District would require an enhanced building facade on all of the exterior facades, so the 4, if it's a square or rectangle. Mr. Baker has asked that the ordinance be amended that that enhanced finish is only going to be required if the building wall is presented or facing a street or a park. So the side walls in most instances would not have to have that enhanced finish. I was asked by the mayor to find out from Mr. Baker what that enhancement would cost him extra. And Jesse Lager, his contractor, said to meet the gateway standards would add $28,000 to the cost of the project. It is a field house. It probably doesn't have a large revenue stream, and most of it would be for private use. But the recommendation then that came from the Planning Commission was to adopt the amendment and only require the enhanced finish on those exposed to a street or a park. It was a 5-2 vote, and the 2 no votes were the council members that are on the Planning Commission, so it kind of raised some uncertainty to me. So the council talked about it at their workshop last Monday. Probably not even real clear direction there, but the proposed amendment that was sent forward to them by the Planning Commission will be considered by the council on Monday night, and we'll see what results of that. A whole bunch of different ideas from, I think everything looks really good. I like the gateway as it is. Those 3rd Street properties shouldn't even be in the gateway. The 2 sides is just fine, but I did see that member DeVos had raised his hand. You got something to comment, Brad?
I just wanted to point out just my no vote was because I thought the amendment was, well, particularly for that property was still too restrictive. So I was in favor of lessening it. So in case people were thinking I didn't want to, you know, I was trying to be too tough on a business. No, I was actually trying to make it easier on them. So.
Well, I didn't even name names. They wouldn't even have known it was you, Brad. But any questions on that? The council is scheduled to hold a public hearing. And so if anyone feels strongly individually and would like to address the council, they can log on to the council meeting that night and make a comment during the public hearing portion of that meeting. Questions? Okay, the Central Business District Accessibility Enhancement Grant Program was adopted by the City Council or reauthorized by the council. Looks like we're going to have about $28,000 to spend. I have sent out invitations then to the building owners in the Central Business District, inviting them to a go-to-meeting webinar that'll be held on the November 13th. That's a Friday. We're going to do it over the noon hour, and then we'll tape it and we can post it. And if they can't participate over the noon hour, they can watch it at their leisure. Any questions on that program? I was specifically asked to reach out to the tenants as well as the property owners. So I will be hand delivering notices of that webinar to the building occupants because oftentimes they're not the same as the owner. And then their letter does say that perhaps they'd encourage the building owner, but we do need the building owner's consent because we need to record a mortgage. So it cannot just be done as a leasehold improvement. The other item is MNO Real Estate. That's John Mayer, and I don't even know the guy's real name. Minnow is all I know him at. I think his first name's Tim. They were thinking they were going to be on this agenda. They didn't have all of their bids and their costs and documentation, but they are looking to convert the old McKenzie agency. So this is a building between River Rock Kitchen and Bakery and Patrick's. Into a little boutique hotel with a very limited number of rooms. So they do have an application. Again, they thought they'd be ready for today. They weren't. So I'd anticipate that they'll be on your November agenda. We will need to consider moving the November meeting because I don't think you guys want to assemble with me on Thanksgiving. You're welcome as long as you cook. But I would propose if there is a need for a meeting to look at the Minnow project that perhaps we could meet the 19th, the week ahead of time. Would that generally work Thursday at noon? I'm seeing heads nodding.
I would be available on that date, but you can certainly hold up that way.
Okay. Well, we'll put out a feeler and we'll ask people to respond to an email. I thought about the Wednesday before, but a lot of people take that day off too to travel. So And we have canceled the meeting in November completely, but I do think that we'll have that little boutique hotel loan review to undertake. So I can now say, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I had prepared. Are there questions for me or comments? Seeing none, I will talk to Mike. You recall a couple months ago, Mike wanted to have a conversation about the interest rate and prime and how it gets tied into there, and do we have leeway? And then he wasn't prepared at the meeting that we were going to discuss it. So I'll check with Mike and see if he'll be ready for the next meeting as well. So if there's nothing else for the good of the cause, I'd ask, is there a motion to adjourn?
Gables will make that motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Corey. Is there a second?
Southworth.
We have a second by Bob. I'm just going to say, all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.